What a Sunday night we have witnessed. Kamsy got evicted, and Neche took a voluntary exit. Let's start with Neche's voluntary exit because the internet has thoughts. Her fans are going through the stages of grief, and right now, most of them are stuck in denial, insisting this is a prank, that her twin sister is about to walk in and replace her. And honestly, that reaction makes sense. There was no warning. We didn't see Neche slowly deteriorating emotionally to the point where everyone watching would say, okay, she clearly can't do this anymore. She did have a rough head of house week though. She struggled to gather the housemates and get them to practice for the wager, and I think part of that came down to not having a strong deputy. I assume she'd picked Blue for that role. But on Sunday, in her conversation with Gerard, it sounded like Gerard was actually her deputy, which is strange because Gerard was the very person she removed from her save list. And this brings me to something I've been saying for a while now. The head of house title has been gutted this season. First, they took away the HOH lounge. Then, they removed the HOH's power to openly save or replace a housemate. These weren't just perks, they were structural support. Think about it. The HOH lounge gave the head of house somewhere to decompress when leadership got overwhelming, a physical escape, a softer bed, some quiet, a few treats, small things that help them mentally reset. And the ability to openly save or replace a housemate, that builds loyalty. When a housemate knows they have immunity because of you, they protect your reign. We saw this during All Stars. The HOH could pick 4 people to join them in the lounge, and that inner circle would actively help coordinate the house and keep things running smoothly for the HOH. This season has none of that. No lounge, no allies, no built-in support system. And so no housemate feels like they owe the HOH anything. At least Chimsom had an official deputy in Abby. At least Sheba had a real bond with Godessa to lean on. Necha had a title everyone assumed came with support and none of the tools that used to make it survivable. People also said Blutopia wasn't there for her last week, but Blutopia later revealed she was dealing with menstrual cramps. And worth noting that same week, Blutopia and Chimsom were growing closer, which pulled Blutopia's attention elsewhere and likely left Neche feeling more isolated than usual. So here's the bigger picture. By stripping the HOH title down to just immunity and nothing else, Big Brother has turned leadership into a heavy, thankless load. Going forward, some housemates might actually prefer to take their chances with eviction rather than carry that crown. And maybe that's exactly why coming last in the HOH challenge is suddenly treated like a crime against humanity, because deep down, production knows they've made the title undesirable. Now, I've said this before on the podcast. The soft life of the Big Brother experience is slipping away, and the show is getting far too heavy handed. Necha may have watched everything Nomy has had to endure this season and thought, I'm not doing that. On Sunday, Nomy had to stand for the entire hour-long live eviction show, then received a microphone infringement with another punishment reportedly still coming. Most housemates would walk before facing what Nomy has had to face. Let's be clear, we have never, in any regular season of BBN, seen a housemate take a voluntary exit. The only precedent is Lucy, and that was All Stars. Big Brother is supposed to be an extraordinary experience. It should feel like a luxury experience that people watching from home dream about having. Because if you make the experience unnecessarily harsh, you also have to ask yourself what kind of people will still want to audition for the show, especially the women. Necha stepping away for her mental health should really make us sit with everything Nomy has silently carried. And this brings me back to Necha. Could she have looked at everything happening in the house and simply decided, you know what, this isn't worth it for me? We don't know, but I do think her exit should make us look at what Nomy has experienced this season. Nomy being resilient does not mean keep testing how much she can take. Resilience should not be mistaken for permission to keep pushing someone. I think production needs to consider the mental well-being of these housemates. Now let's talk about Necha herself, because regardless of why she left, I think she leaves as a strong woman. She walked away at a moment when the ovation was loud, and they say sometimes the best time to leave is when people are still asking for more. It had actually been a very good week for her. Back-to-back wins, she was performing well, and she knew when to walk away. That takes strength. Neche was also a breath of fresh air in the arena. She showed us repeatedly that when it comes to those games, what a man can do, a woman can absolutely do better. And we don't always get to see that kind of dominance from the women in Biggie's arena. That is one area where I think she will genuinely be missed. Where Neche struggled was with building storylines. She had a very strong friendship with Glutopia, but perhaps that friendship was too strong. There wasn't much drama there. And in Big Brother, sometimes a perfect friendship isn't necessarily good television. Then there was Ricky, then there was Barry, but neither relationship really developed into the kind of storyline that could carry her through the competition. And while Barry was supposed to be interested in Necha, we've seen him making moves towards Godessa. This week, however, things were finally getting interesting. Necha was beginning to have potential rivalries with Godessa and Sheba. That could have been a really strong storyline, but Necha doesn't seem like someone who naturally carries bad blood. And honestly, she might have struggled to give us the kind of rivalry production was hoping for. Still, and Necha was a breath of fresh air. And Biggie's arena is going to feel a little different without her. Now let's talk about Kamsy. Her eviction didn't exactly cause the same uproar, and I think I know why. One of the biggest questions viewers seem to have about Kamsi was, oh, why does this woman have so many nightwear outfits? Because the fashion, I'm sorry, but it was not giving. And Big Brother is partly about the drama, yes, but let's be honest. Some people watch because they want the fashion, the glamour, and the looks. Kamsi didn't really give us enough of that. She did have a storyline at one point. There was the triangle involving Gerard and Chimsum, and eventually Kamsi chose Gerard. But I'm not convinced that was the best strategic decision because her connection with Chimsum was actually what was giving her traction. Chimsum was active, he was involved, he was evoking emotions from both viewers and housemates. Gerard, on the other hand, has been getting a lot of complaints for sleeping, and when it comes to fan bases, I personally think Chimsum has a stronger following than Gerard. So when Kamsi chose Gerard, she may have moved away from the connection that could have helped her survive. It's one of those big brother decisions where you have to ask, did she choose the person she genuinely wanted? Or did she choose the person who was better for her game? We'll never know, but the result is clear. Kamsi is out. And now, I'm going to say something I've been saying for a while. Next week feels like the perfect time for new housemates. Let these current ships develop. Let everyone get comfortable. Let the alliances settle. Let everyone start thinking they understand exactly where everybody stands. And then open the doors. Bring in at least 4 new housemates. And please, Biggie, make them interesting. I want 4 beautiful, handsome, confident housemates. The whole package. But here's the twist I'd add. Before they enter the house, ask each new housemate, which of the current housemates are you attracted to, or who do you think you could connect with? Imagine someone walks through that door and says, actually, I've been watching and I like Araga. Or, Cassie is exactly my type. Or, I don't think Nomy and I would get along. Suddenly, the existing ships have a problem. The friendships have a problem. The alliances have a problem. And everybody has to start reassessing where they stand. That's Big Brother. Sometimes you don't need a complicated twist, you just need to introduce the right people at the right time. And I think season 11 could use exactly that. We'll end today's episode here. If you've listened this far, thank you so much. Please like, follow, and subscribe to the Reality TVing Podcast so you don't miss the next episode.